I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
This is where the fun begins.
Hello there.
Hello and welcome to Jedi Knights, the official Star Wars podcast for JoyClicks. My name is Mike Connors, and as always, here with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Christian Buckley. How are you, my man?
I'm doing well, Mike. Thank you for asking. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I'm ready to talk some Star Wars today, man.
Absolutely. You know, the shirt arrived, my May the 4th order, so
True.
I am rocking the R2D2 shirt today. I will say, for video people, you might notice, why does everything look reversed? Because, personally, behind the scenes, Mike, the webcam, it like flips the thing, so it looks like I'm moving my right hand right now, but I'm actually moving my left, and this is the default. I think I look better when it's flipped, but if I'm wearing a shirt, the shirt's reversed. So
Gotcha.
I'm sacrificing my own narcissism to just show off this cool shirt today. So
Well, I think the viewers should be very, very happy that you're making that sacrifice for them.
thank you.
I saw Kayla tweeted that she got a cool shirt too. It's like the Clone Wars, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka. I thought that was a really sweet shirt from the same line, right?
Yeah, we both ordered on Her Universe for the May the 4th sale. Got here really quick, so very nice. Fits well. I'm happy with it. I like it.
Yeah, I have to check that out. I definitely want to cop something. I think you texted me like when you got it, and I was like, that looks really cool. So
Yeah. But what about you? How are you doing? Any Star Wars stuff lately?
honestly, not really, man. But actually, I did watch a bit of episode 2 yesterday,
Okay.
just because I threw it on at night, because I know that it was I think
Puts you
Sunday
to
was
sleep.
the yeah, basically. I think Sunday was the second, or it was like, one of the anniversaries of episode 2. I think it came out on like that day, and I happened to see that on Twitter, and I was like, oh, I kind of want to watch episode 2. So yeah, I watched that until I fell asleep. Got as far as Obi-Wan getting like attacked on Geonosis.
Oh, okay.
That's about as far as I got, which is pretty far.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Very nice. Did you? What did you think this time? You know, I know we've talked about doing like a rewatch this year for the show, which we absolutely will do. But like, any changes for Attack of the Clones?
As much as I don't like that movie, it's no at least it's not The Rise of Skywalker. I'll just say that. Okay.
Right there.
So I think we should get just going with our episode here, and we always start these off with our segment from the Jedi Archives, and this is when Christian and I both choose a piece of Star Wars media, whether that's canon or otherwise. We look it up on the Star Wars Wikipedia, and we bring it to the show to educate each other and the audience on what we chose. So. Normally, I usually press for the last few episodes, I've been pressing the random page button, but I actually thought of something and chose it today. But before we get to that, I feel like, Christian, I want to know what you got first.
Sure. I went random,
All right.
like you said, I've been doing here or there. I did a couple little clicks because I wanted to find one that was good enough, and
Mhm.
once again, like I found some interesting like time period things, and I was like, you know what? No, I just need something good and straightforward. So this week I'm talking about nut butter.
Nut butter.
Nut butter.
Interesting.
Nut butter was a type of butter made using nuts, which could be served in cafes. The voice of an individual speaking with a mouthful of nut butter sounded muffled and sticky when the Jedi Luke Skywalker first met the given mathematician Drusilla Befferin after she had been sitting at a cafe on the planet Denon. He wondered if her voice sounded muffled and sticky because she had consumed nut butter at the cafe.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Mhm.
Is that like is this one of the Wikipedia pages that is like 3 sentences long, and you just read me all three of them?
Yes. For food specifications, the physical description is butter. The plant-based ingredients are nuts, and it is edible by the given people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Would you want to try nut butter? I mean, I feel like it sounds sort of just like peanut butter, kind of, but
Yeah.
a little bit more sticky.
I mean, I like peanut butter, so I wouldn't
Yeah, I'm
say
allergic
no.
to peanut butter. I'm allergic to
Oh.
peanut butter. So maybe this wouldn't be for me, because
Yeah.
it's a nut butter. I'm allergic to nuts. Probably not a great thing.
That is rough. I did not know that, but If you're curious,
Did you know?
oh,
Oh, I was gonna say, do you think Dex had this in his diner?
oh, absolutely, put some of that on toast. Oof, yeah.
Yep.
Um, nut butter is canon though. It is new canon. It's from Heir to the Jedi. So there you go.
That's all right. Cool. So that's a great choice there, Christian. I was thinking for myself, I was thinking about episode 2 because I was watching it yesterday, and I think Padme has a very like strong role in that movie,
Hmm.
and she's more of a badass in that movie than she is in episode 3, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so it made me think about the Queens of Naboo, and I was thinking about Queen's Peril, which is a book by E.K. Johnson about Padme, and I was thinking about Padme's successor. So who was Padme's successor after she left the throne of Queen of Naboo? And it was a woman named, well, a girl rather, named Ray Lada. Okay. So interestingly enough, I remember Ray Lada from, I don't know if I'm butchering her name, but I remember her from the Queen's Peril book. And I think it's interesting because she is a Queen of Naboo who served twice. And I'm pretty sure that's not super common since they're all children usually.
Hmm.
So the first time was a 2-year term when Padme was still a young girl. So this was like, 36 BBY. And then Padme became queen. And after that, she like basically succeeded her again. So she was in the throne for 2 times. Queens of Naboo are elected by the Naboo people. So I guess it could be possible. It's just interesting. Normally they go for like, it seems like they go for different people every time.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to bring that up. Thought it was a cool Wikipedia page to share.
Very cool, yeah. And I wonder too, you saying that made me wonder, what is the Naboo, political spectrum like in the Bad Batch era? Post Order 66, is there still a queen?
That's true.
Are the Gungans, are they the primary leaders now? Like, does the Empire not care about Naboo? Are they there heavy? Like, what's up?
I remember in the Battlefront 2 story mode, there was a mission on Naboo where you play as Leia, and I'm pretty sure the Empire like had control over it, or maybe not. I don't know. I honestly forget that mission, but I know that like there is still some like serious political instability happening on Naboo during the Empire. So
Very interesting.
yeah. Well, I thought that was really great. We had 2 awesome picks there, Christian. We got Nut Butter, and then obviously the 2-time Queen of Naboo, Ray Lada. So great stuff all around.
Agreed.
Why don't you? Why don't we think about some news here? And the first thing that I picked out was something that I thought would be relevant for JoyClick, since we also have a Marvel podcast that you do with Jack Martin.
Hmm.
Kevin Feige is what was the executive producer of Marvel Studios or something like that.
He's the guy with the board in his office that has all the strings connected all the projects.
Yeah, he's basically putting it all together. He's a genius for doing so. But
He's Palpatine.
because
He's Palpatine. Sorry.
he's Palpatine of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You're definitely right.
Yes.
But so since he's so adept at putting together a really awesome universe of different movies that connect in all different ways, of course, people are thinking that maybe since he is connected to Disney, he would be interested in leading Lucasfilm, which is obviously the studio that's done Star Wars, Indiana Jones, all that kind of stuff, and maybe take a more leading role in Lucasfilm. Well, there was a report by Variety on Disney's reorganization following Bob Iger leaving, who was the former CEO. And a Disney executive, I think, confirmed, without being named, that not only is Kevin Feige not currently involved with any executive aspects of Lucasfilm, but he doesn't really have any ambitions to do so in the future. So we know that he's still working sort of on a Star Wars movie that he was announced to be producing.
Hmm.
But it seems like there's no set timeline for that. So it's going to be a long time till we see anything from that. I'm kind of curious what you think, Christian. Like, did you think that there was any possibility that Kevin Feige would actually take a leading role here at Lucasfilm, or do you think this was just sort of people coming up with theories that had no real basis in reality?
I think it's the latter. I think
Yeah.
for some reason the terrible people in this. Are you familiar with the term the fandom menace within the Star Wars community?
No, no, but like, is it just the horrible Star
It's
Wars
the
thing?
horrible people, yeah.
Okay.
So I feel like the fandom menace, right, who spew these rumors out of nothing, right? Like those thumbnails on YouTube, like, oh, Kathleen Kennedy's been fired for 8 months, like stuff like that. Like,
Yeah. Right. Right. Or like Gina Carano should be hired back or something
exactly.
like that. Yeah.
Like those people, I guess for some reason, really enjoy the MCU as well, but probably are the people who also hate Brie Larson, right? Like there's that crossover there.
Yeah.
So for
yeah.
some reason, even though Kevin Feige's making those decisions, they think Kevin Feige, I guess since he's a dude, would be the better leader of Lucasfilm, right? But I never believed this, even if, Kevin Feige, he probably likes Star Wars. Like, he has a pulse. Most people like Star
I'm
Wars.
sure.
Like,
Yeah.
he has, like, I read an article the other day, or I saw a headline that was like, here's the 15 upcoming Marvel projects, like, after Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I was like, huh? Like, I didn't even, like, I know there's obviously going to be Marvel stuff until long after we leave this earth, Mike, but, like,
Yeah.
Kevin Feige is busy, I'm sure he's planning out the next, like, 15 years of Marvel movies, the events, like, he's having meetings left and right, and I think in his little free time, he was like, you know what, sure, I'll throw together a Star Wars movie. Why not? Like, I think that's what his involvement is that we've heard about since it was announced he was going to be working on one, honestly. I really don't think he has the time or passion to do this the way he does with Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, there are only 24 hours in the day, right, Christian?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and Kevin Feige, he's put a lot of work into the MCU, so he deserves, a minute to himself every here and then, a beer to enjoy. He doesn't have to be running two major worldwide franchises. That's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and like, I love the MCU, right? It's one of my favorite things. I'm so glad I'm alive in the time of the MCU, right? Like, humanity's been around for so long, and we're living in the MCU era. It's great.
Yeah.
And I know you enjoy it too, but we're on the same page with this, where I know you sort of like firmly believe that Star Wars should not be handled the same way the MCU is, and I'm right there with you. I think it's two separate things. I don't think you can MCUify the release schedule of Star Wars. Maybe we get that with TV, with the Filoni shows, but like I think that is the extent of it. I don't think you can replicate the MCU with Star Wars, and I know you feel that way. So like, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, they've already tried to sort of, like you said, MCUify the Star Wars franchise. They already tried putting out like 2 movies a year, and the burnout within the fans was just like too much, right? Like, it's just, you can't do it. It just doesn't work the same sort of way. And I think Disney sort of understood that. I think they're realizing that. And I think that's evidenced by the fact that, they're really leaning heavily into TV. And it seems like they're leaning more heavily into TV for Star Wars than they are Marvel. I don't think there's a Star Wars feature film scheduled for release until like 2023 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
I think like Marvel, I could tell you, like, I think they have like 8 shows announced right now, but
right.
in terms of just like a ratio, then yeah, Star Wars is way heavily skewed to television, right? Like,
No, but that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like Marvel's coming out with like Black Widow, and then they have like Shang-Chi, and then like Doctor Strange. But like, what do you think of like Star Wars? I think the next thing is the X-Wing Squadron movie or something.
Right.
Right. Like,
yeah, and you also threw out there like, when do we expect this too? Like, there's 3 films announced for this decade. First one is 23.
Yeah.
You're probably right. That's the Patty Jenkins one. I forget what the in-between is. That's probably Taika's, because that's being written and being worked on right now. And I imagine the third one in like 2027 or 2028 or something like that is probably the Feige movie. If it's not
probably
the first Rian Johnson movie, because I'm sure he'll be done with Knives Out 3 by then. So like, maybe.
Yeah. No, but that's the thing. Like, it's just a different thing, and I think Disney's obviously treating it differently than the MCU.
Yeah.
Kevin Feige has his hands full with, putting all the strings together for, phase 4, 5, and 6 of the MCU, and whatever the hell comes after that. Like, he just doesn't have the time for Star Wars. I'm sure he's just gonna, Like, if someone calls him for his input, he'll help. But like,
Yeah.
like I don't think he's going to be taking like a leading role.
Also, like, Feige is doing great, right? And he's been in Hollywood for a long time. Like, I remember when I rewatched, like, Spider-Man 1, the Sam Raimi one, I saw his name in the credits, I think, and I was like, oh, wow, he's been doing this since then.
Really? Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like, he's been around, dude. And, like, Feige, if you're doing good things, keep it up. But, like, he's probably going to retire at some point. So at some point in his career, he's probably going to bring on, like, an apprentice to, like, shepherd the rest of the MCU after he retires, right? So that's probably sooner than later. He's going to be tied up, man. He's busy.
Yeah. You got to let the man live a little bit too. He's got to spend those Mickey Mouse bucks. And he can't be doing that if he's running two franchises.
Exactly. So.
Another interesting part of this article is that Kathleen Kennedy's contract with Lucasfilm is also set to expire later this year. That's just an interesting tidbit that I didn't know, Christian. Do you think Kathleen Kennedy is going to? Do you think Disney is going to want to keep Kathleen Kennedy on as? I think she's like the head producer of Lucasfilm. So I'm not exactly, I forget the title, but
she might be like president or something. I don't know.
Yeah, president of Lucasfilm. Do you think Disney's going to keep her on in that role?
Yes, because they've already made their money back, with her in charge. So like it's a success. Star Wars could probably be more successful, like I know compared to the MCU, Star Wars overseas doesn't do very well. Like the MCU, the Iron Man movies do incredibly in China, which is a more important market than Hollywood at this point. America for movies in Hollywood, and Star Wars doesn't hit there the way that something like a Iron Man or an Avatar would, right? So like I'm sure they want to hit that, but like that can be done, and if not, it doesn't need to, because it's still successful. It's still Star Wars, right? Like my question, Mike, do you think that we can make money like playing odds against people who think she's gonna not get re-signed this year? Do you think we can make some cash off this fandom menace?
Yeah, because definitely. I think we've talked about this before. People like to live this fantasy, this like completely false fantasy that Kathleen Kennedy like sucks at her job, and like Disney doesn't like her, and like she's running Lucasfilm into the ground. But everybody forgets, and we've talked about this ad nauseum on the podcast before, but everybody forgets that she's literally been doing this for like decades. She's like one of the most powerful women in the industry, and she's made, like, as much as you don't maybe not like the new Star Wars movies, all those movies have done like decently well at the box office. Even the worst one has done okay. Like, so she's built like a pretty interesting franchise, like ever since Disney sort of acquired Lucasfilm back in 2012, 2013. She's built it into something. She's helped to build it into something, a lot greater than it was before. And the sequel trilogy sort of has its own sort of, I don't know, it's got its own vibe. It's got its own thing. I feel like without her, it wouldn't exist. And I don't understand. I just don't see Lucasfilm, or Disney sort of like booting Kathleen Kennedy. I think she's going to be sticking on for a while.
I agree.
Well, so Christian, Kathleen Kennedy may be out of Lucasfilm later this year, but Star Wars Celebration is something that's going to be here to stay. We have a date for Star Wars Celebration 2022 in Anaheim, Christian. I guess it was originally scheduled for August, but it's moving up to May 26th through the 29th, 2022. It's going to be in Anaheim, California, like I said, at the Anaheim Convention Center. I believe the 2020, I don't know if there was a 2020 event, but I think one of them got canceled because of COVID, or I might be completely wrong with that. But
I think the 2021 got pushed to 2022, I think, because I know there's not one this year. So
no, there isn't one this year. I knew that there was something that happened with COVID. But yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to go to one of these, Christian. I'm not sure about you.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
they look like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it for a future episode. But my cousin, again, the cousin who introduced me to Star Wars when I was very young, right? He went to the celebration, I think, leading up to Revenge of the Sith. So.
Oh wow.
I have somewhere in this house like a nice boxed Darth Vader from like figure from Celebration, and it says like Episode 3 or something. And if you click it, it says there's like little quotes that'll spew out of it, a speaker. I should try and find that because that used to be on my shelf growing up, and I have no idea where it is now.
That's like really cool. That's like a collector's piece, probably.
Oh, hell yeah! I bet the box is like dinged up to hell, so it's probably worth dirt. But like, it's a cool thing I own. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's definitely something that I would just like keep forever. But yeah, man, like I really want to go to a Star Wars celebration at some point. I don't know if 2022 is going to be my year, but because I think tickets have already been sold for it. But
because you also have to wonder the carryover, right? For like people who planned and got tickets for 2020, they probably got like first in line for 22, right? First right of refusal, legal terms. But,
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So.
I mean, honestly, like they seem to do the celebrations like I think like once every 2 years, like even before COVID.
Yeah. It's weird too, like because I think it feels like they were consecutive ones for some of the movies, but maybe I'm just misremembering. But I know there's a weird pivot between D23 and Star Wars Celebration and like Comic-Con. Like there's a weird thing that I don't understand.
Yeah. No, I mean, now I'm second guessing myself, thinking that maybe there were celebrations like annually, but that doesn't seem right to me. Regardless, I really want to go to one. Hopefully, I can go to one if there is one in 2023. I hope I can go to it. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, it'll be a little bit closer to us here in Massachusetts, Christian. But
oh, for sure, do like a North Carolina one or something. Road trip, Mike.
Well, honestly, like if it was anywhere on the East Coast, I would drive. And probably go. I feel like they should maybe do something in like New York or
that'd be cool, yeah.
Boston. Why not?
Is there an upcoming? When does Empire turn 50?
Ooh, I think it just turned 40. Okay. So
well, maybe 45.
It turned 40 last year.
Maybe 45. It's in New York, and it's the Empire State Building is the thing. It's like Empire State of Mind. All Manhattan is just stormtroopers everywhere.
They find a way to like make the Empire State Building look like a stormtrooper. I don't
know. No, well, the Empire State Building don't they do the different lights sometimes for different occasions?
That's true. They do different lights.
Disney's got that money. Do some red, white, and black.
Honestly, yeah. How like iconic would it be if they could just like get? I don't know. Like I'm just imagining Disney like paying so much money to like get a permit to like put some sort of like drape over the Empire State Building for a day that's like the Galactic Empire or something. I feel that would be pretty insane, but probably not going to happen. Anyways, I hope I can go sometime soon. Hopefully it's on the East Coast, so Christian, I can take a bit of a road trip.
Absolutely. Would you rather? What's going to happen first? Do you think Galaxy's Edge or Mike Connors going to a Star Wars Celebration?
I think Mike Connors going to a Star Wars Celebration will happen first.
Nice.
They will both happen sometime.
Oh, for sure, of course.
But yeah, I think the celebration may be a little bit more. Honestly, why don't we have Celebration in Florida so I could just kill two birds with one stone? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, works out. Do it at Disney World.
I mean, like Star Wars Celebration in Batuu.
Yeah,
that's like the ultimate celebration.
For sure, absolutely.
Would you try to cosplay as anything, Christian?
Ooh, I mean, I'm a average looking white guy. I'm so Han Solo, right? Like that's what I got. Those are my options. You know what? I feel like I've had long hair before. I feel like I could do like an Anakin or a Ben Solo.
Yeah, I feel like you can probably pull that off. I've done Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi for Halloween before, so maybe I could try to pull that off. Make the costume a little bit better for a celebration.
Of course.
Well, speaking of some new Star Wars material, I found this interesting story about Andor. That's currently filming right now. We've talked about that a bit on the podcast previously. But it looks like they're returning to a filming location that was used in the sequel trilogy. So this comes from Bespin Bulletin, so shout out to them. Based on the pictures that they released on their Instagram, it looks like some sort of jungle scene is being filmed, with like fern like trees and wooden huts that may or may not be complete. Like they kind of look incomplete. But they're filming at Black Park, which is a country park in Buckinghamshire in the United Kingdom near Pinewood Studios. I guess both The Force Awakens and The Rise of Skywalker filmed in Black Park for Takodana and the Resistance Base scenes, both those movies.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of interesting that we're seeing, Star Wars kind of go back to its old one of its storied filming locations, and it kind of just brings me and it makes me think where they're going with Andor. If we're going to see Cassian on Takodana or something, that would be cool.
I was gonna throw out there, right? Like, do you think we get a Maz Kanata appearance in this show?
I mean, so like this show is taking place, right before Episode 4, a few years before Episode 4, and a few years before Rogue One. So that's about like, what is it, like maybe like 30 to 40 years before The Force Awakens or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maz Kanata definitely, like, that castle's got to be there. She's definitely there. So I think it's not it's not inconceivable that Cassian is going to be sort of like hooking up with Maz Kanata.
Yeah, because like she's clearly an informant that sympathizes for the Resistance, and you imagine she knows Chewie. That relationship was probably, fostered during the years of the Empire. The solo times, because she's up there in age, right? Isn't she like over 500 years old? She's old.
I mean, she just looks old, right?
Yeah. So I think that'd be honestly cool, because I think Maz is an interesting character who has a lot of wiggle room for where she could pop up in the saga, and I think it'd be cool to just see like what she's up to during these eras we're super familiar with, because again, it just, similar to Mando, is just really solidifying the sequels as feeling more like they're in this universe, which they already do, but I think that's the benefit of expanded material, right? Like, if it is focused on this conflict, then of course you would see somebody like a Maz Kanata, or maybe a Princess Leia. I don't know. But...
Yeah. Well, we know that from Episode 8, The Last Jedi, Maz Kanata's got some connections, right? She knows like who the master code breaker is, and like, I don't know, she's like on some like labor dispute, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, she seems like she's definitely got connections. Obviously she's running like, Takodana's version of the Mos Eisley Cantina, so she knows a lot of people. I totally can see how I could see her fitting into the Cassian Andor show, maybe as like a side character, or somebody who helps Cassian out on a mission, or somebody that like gives him a mission or something like that. Definitely a reasonable suspicion to have, and something that I actually want to see, because the sequel trilogy, I think, sort of left a lot to be desired for Maz Kanata. Like, she had a pretty central role sort of in The Force Awakens, and then her she kind of trailed off in terms of relevance for episodes 8, and she was barely in episode 9.
I was gonna ask,
so
is she in 9?
She's like, I don't even think she has a speaking role. I don't even know.
No,
like a second.
Isn't she the one that when we all come back to the base, isn't she the one that says what happened to Leia? Maybe.
Right. Yeah. She's like there for some reason, and that's the only thing that she ever does in it.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of a shame, because like Episode 7 kind of made her out to seem like very mysterious, and like she has a lot of backstory and background. And
yeah. Like, look at Yoda with the High Republic, right? Like, you have a character who has been around for so long, and I feel like not capitalizing on that, because Maz, I think, is an interesting character, right? Like, she's that, you need a guy, I got a guy, right? And we don't really have many of those in Star Wars in a major role, so, like, I think using that age and that, history she has in a scenario where it makes sense, they should do it.
Oh, they should totally do it. And I think, honestly, if they've used this if they've used this filming location to film Takodana, I feel like the writing's on the wall. It almost just like writes itself in a way. Like, it totally makes sense that Maz Kanata would be in this story, given what we know about the Andor TV show.
Yeah, and it's a spy thriller, right? Like,
right.
She knows things. Cassie needs to know things, Like, it just makes the writing's there. It's clear as day.
It is clear as day. I mean, they could be on what's the planet Dakar or something. That's the resistance base in episode 9. But yeah, probably not. It seems more realistic that it would be Takanana than Dakar. But yeah, it should be interesting. I hope to see Lupita Nyong'o sort of reprise the role, because out of a lot of the sequel characters, I think Maz Kanata and Captain Phasma are the two that they should have really spent some more time on.
Sure.
So hopefully that happens.
Well, Mike, if you didn't know that Phasma has a book, she has a book.
Okay, well, I didn't know that she had a book, Christian, and I'm not really thinking about reading an entire book about Captain Phasma. Thank you very much. Well, Christian, we have a lot of fun talking about Star Wars every single week on this podcast, but I don't think we talk nearly enough about the person who gave us what we talk about every single week, George Lucas himself, the creator of Star Wars, the director of the first one in 1977. He wrote it, he came up with it, and then he wrote and directed all the prequel trilogies. I mean, all the prequel movies. So, he's a big deal. His birthday was on May 14th, so happy birthday to George Lucas. I just wanted to shout that out. He turned 77 and he's still kicking, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday, the maker. Oh, and Mike, I think we were getting a holographic transmission from George.
Oh, we are?
Yeah,
George?
Yeah, hello. I really like your guys' show, and I think it's great, and I'm just real glad that you appreciate what I did with the prequels, So I love the younger generation. I grew up with them. That was the intent, but and you're right. It all hinges on Jar Jar. So Jar Jar is the key.
George, thank you so much for giving us Star Wars, and thank you so much for giving us Jar Jar Binks as well. He's definitely up there as one of the greatest characters that you ever came up with.
Now let me tell you about the Wills. Oh, I'm sorry, George. Oh no, he's gone.
Well, that was fun. George Lucas showed up.
Yeah.
That's the first time. 82 episodes in, and he finally gave us some recognition. So thank you, George.
Yeah, I did see though on prequel memes, the subreddit.
Yeah.
On May 14th, his birthday. I saw some meme that was like a template of a clone thing, and I was like, oh, did he turn 66? And then I thought about that more, and I was like, wait, no, he's not younger than Mark Hamill. That's not true. But
no, yeah, no, he's still kicking. Honestly, I wish we get to see more of him. He's kind of just under the radar now. Though, did you see that one YouTube video that went viral recently of he was in the background of some documentary? I think I sent it to you and Jack.
That was so good.
Yeah, he pops up over here and there.
Odds? No,
what are the never tell me the odds.
I'm with you. I would love to see more George Lucas, but it's just so nice because when he is cited, it becomes that's the thing for that day. There was the documentary footage. There was the picture of filming season 2 of him holding Grogu and it was blurry. There was that, and during season 2 there was the picture of him and Rosario as Ahsoka on set, right? So as much as I would love to see more George Lucas and hear more things he has to say, when he does pop up, it's always great, It's always great. I love seeing George Lucas. It's really just good to see that he's still around, and that he's he's still embracing Star Wars for what it is, and he created it. And I think we'd be remiss by saying that this man still gives me a lot of joy in my life. Oh, absolutely.
And so he's a legend and my hero. Thank you, George Lucas. So in other news, I saw this, I think it was yesterday, this is when this came out. So May 17th on a Monday, the Dark Saber toy was released at Galaxy's Edge. Christian, have you seen this?
I have.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever planned a Disney trip, Mike, because I haven't, but my girlfriend has, and Kayla has been, every time we hang out, there's at least 3 things to go over. So the second she saw this, it was in my DM, and I was like, ooh. What do you think of this thing?
So it looks pretty cool. It doesn't seem to have the telescoping sort of thing the toys do, but It seems more in line of the more high end like LED Star Wars like lightsaber toys that you would get when you're doing the lightsaber creation at Galaxy's Edge.
Yes.
I think it looks really cool. It has interest. It has definitely like new sounds to it and everything, which I enjoy. I think the blade itself looks pretty good. The only thing I would say is that in the very middle of it, like there's this like really like white bright part that I don't know if is like necessarily reflective of what it looks like in Rebels and in The Mandalorian and everything. But I think for overall, it looks like a really awesome toy to have like as a kid, to be honest with you. And I think it retails for like $199, which is pretty expensive, but for the build quality is definitely there, it seems.
Yeah, that is about, or that's what the custom sabers that used to be the price. They got bumped up to $220. I don't know how much a legacy saber is. Like if you just wanted to buy Anakin's,
the pre-made ones.
Yeah, if you wanted to buy Anakin's or Obi-Wan's, I don't know how much those are, but I know they're cheaper than a custom one, so I don't know where this falls on that spectrum. But I'm with you. I think the dark saber has always been. Like, how would they do that on the level of like what they do with the normal collector's sabers? So, maybe eventually we get there with blacklight, but not the blacklight that exists. So like, maybe one day. But I think for now, you're right. It is cool. It's a nice looking collectible for sure.
It is a nice looking collectible. Yeah, I think you're right. Like the traditional lightsabers that we are used to with the sort of like white blade and it's like LEDs, those look pretty good. Really good actually. But this is a little bit, I feel like it's a little bit off the mark, but it's just a matter of time till they hone down the design and everything like that.
Exactly. Like
I think
we got telescoping eventually for a light up one, we just saw that. So just give it time.
Yeah, I think for what it is, it looks pretty cool. And I don't know, Christian, would you buy this for $200?
No, just because I don't like the Darksaber. I think is cool, right? But it's never been like a favorite piece of that world for me. Like I get it's important, but I have no real strong attachment to anybody who's wielded it, right? Like I like Maul, but I prefer his double bladed, of course. Maybe that changes with season 3 and like Din just being super cool with the Darksaber, but like Darksaber to me has always been like it's cool that exists. I think white sabers are cooler, like Ahsoka's, but just me. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily be down for this. I feel like if I were to go to Galaxy's Edge and spend some money, I would prefer spending it on one of like the custom sabers from Savi's workshop, even if I'd be spending some more money. I don't think it would be a situation where I'd be buying both of them. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I did a little fact check for the legacy costs. It's $129.99 to $199.99. So this is on the high end for a legacy saber, which it's funny you just said you don't know if you do both. I'm in an interesting scenario where when I go, the park is going to have, I think for a limited time, Cal Kestis' lightsaber as a legacy one.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to be buying 2 sabers this year.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's like a limited thing like that, I feel like I'd absolutely be in your shoes as well.
Yeah, because Cal's saber's so cool. It's so cool.
It is really cool. Is it going to be like broken on one side?
I think so, yeah.
Like, it's so cool, man. But yeah, it looks pretty cool. I'm into it. I just like seeing Star Wars toys, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
So yeah. Anything else you want to say about that, Christian, before we move on to our review of this new Bad Batch episode?
No, I don't think so. I'm going to be spending a lot of money on Star Wars merch this year, so more the merrier at this point.
Hopefully, I don't know if like you're going to be able to maybe like preview it at Galaxy's Edge, but hopefully you can at least get your hands on it, just like see it. Probably not, but who?
That reminds me, actually. There was one more thing I wanted to say. So, remember there were rumors or reports like a year or so ago, maybe? I don't remember when this happened because, time. But I think at one point there was a rumor that in an upcoming season, like a fall season, Batuu would shift from the cast members being in the sequel era to Mandalorian era.
Interesting. Is this like a rumor that you heard?
Yes. I don't know the validity of this, but it was definitely before I booked the trip, and I guess it would make sense, maybe, right? Because like Batu, like the theme park is in a locked-in period of time, but Batu exists for however who knows as long, right? So they could just take.
Well,
out...
it's in Canada. It's like one of the most like ancient places of civilization. So
Sure.
yeah.
So like it's still there during Din's adventures with Grogu. So like I don't know how much of it. Like obviously the rides, like Rise of the Resistance, is probably not going to change, right? But like if instead of Kylo Ren walking around, it's Moff Gideon and Din Djarin, like I don't know if the Darksaber's just there to be there for, you know, merch, but like that could be another little crumb for a window fall.
I mean, I feel like that would be interesting. The only problem is like you said, I think like a lot of the rides are sort of like centered around the setting that they already have established for Batu.
Yeah.
In terms of like it's taking place during like the New Republic and their fight with the First Order and everything like that. So I mean, it's definitely possible because you could just, as Disney, just be like, "Oh, this is taking place at a different time now." Like, you know what I mean? But
because like I know they're committed to that canon, but that's the thing that holds me back. Is like they're not. I could see them change the Millennium Falcon ride to have dialogue about the Empire instead of, or like the remnants of the Empire, but Rise of the Resistance like probably cannot change at all. So I don't know how they handle that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're just like, you know what, never mind. That part's just. You walk past this point, you walk through the world between worlds, and you're looking at the sequel era. You know, like
yeah, I mean that's possible, right? I mean Disney does that kind of stuff all the time.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean I'm thinking about it from like a visitor perspective. I feel like Disney would want to have like nothing against Moff Gideon or anything, but like I feel like Disney would want to have more iconic characters walking around. You know what I mean? The Mandalorian Din Djarin's definitely iconic by this point, but like Moff Gideon versus Kylo Ren, I feel like Kylo Ren is seared in the minds of more visitors than, you know, Giancarlo Esposito's face. But you know, that's not to say that it can't happen. I mean, that'd be cool. I'm down to see it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think we should move on to the meat and potatoes of this episode and get on to the episode 3 review of The Bad Batch. What do you think, Christian?
Absolutely.
So this one was called Replacements. It clocked in around like 24 minutes, I believe, but it seemed pretty packed with a lot of interesting stuff and things that we could talk about today. I guess first off, what do you think? What did you think about this episode, Christian, just overall, in terms of where it's bringing us in the overall story of The Bad Batch?
Sure. I liked it a lot. Obviously, I feel like the premiere is hard to top because it was basically a movie. But I thought this episode was stronger than episode 2. And, like, I still liked episode 2. You know, we talked about it last week.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because your main point last week was just the comparison of the Village episode of The Mandalorian Season 1, where this was basically Peyton Reed's episode of Mandalorian Season 2 when they get stuck on the ice planet with the spider hunting them. So, like, it's not bothering me, but, you know, we got 14 more episodes to go or something like that, 12, I don't know. So, again, it's a formula that works, it's a setup, but I thought it was a great episode. It was very dark. And just seeing the progression of everybody again, I really enjoyed. So I liked it a lot. It's one of the stronger ones, I think, so far.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty critical about episode 2 last week. I did kind of pick up. Let me just say off the top, I think this is a stronger episode. I agree with you. I think this is a stronger episode than episode 2. Episode 1's hard to beat. That was just like epic. But this one, yeah, I mean, I think it did a lot more in terms of like characters outside the Bad Batch. It was a little derivative in the sense that like I feel like we've seen this sort of setup, like you said, in Peyton Reed's episode and in and like it's just an Empire Strikes Back when they go into the asteroid and like there's like these creepy aliens that are like attacking the Millennium Falcon and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I did see the comparisons there, but I think this episode starts to start and like bring the Bad Batch into a new direction, especially with all the stuff that was going on with like Crosshair and the Empire and the Kaminoans. I think that was the part of the episode that I was the most interested in. I hope that they sort of start to stray away from like things that we've seen before in Star Wars. I hope that maybe like last week and this week are just ways for the show creators to sort of play off of existing tropes within the franchise to sort of get the viewers accustomed to this new show and everything. But overall, I enjoyed this a lot better than episode 2 for sure. So I mean, I don't know if you're looking at the doc here, Christian, but I pulled out a few things from the episode that I thought were interesting. Basically, the episode kind of starts with the Bad Batch crash landing on a moon. It sort of revolves around them trying to get off said moon, while Crosshair, does the Empire's bidding, and they have some interesting political fights over whether or not the Empire will continue to use clones going forward after Order 66. So, the first thing I wanted to bring up was, at the beginning of the episode, they crash land on this moon, the Bad Batch, and afterwards, Wrecker sort of like says that his head hurts and everything, and that he may have hit his head during the crash landing. I find this interesting because I didn't really see anything like that, and we know that inhibitor chips in these clones is a big part of the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious, Christian, do you think that maybe Wrecker is starting to have some issues with his inhibitor chip? Do you think that maybe this is the first inklings of him turning into, a Crosshair type and executing Order 66 a bit late?
So what I saw, excuse me, when I checked your document, I went back to the episode and I rewound. When he crashes, like the handrail, he definitely knocks his head, because you see it like it shakes and he goes like ah. Also, I just thought it was simple but good comedy when like they're crashing and then like Omega goes over and she's clearly too small for this harness. It's going to do nothing for her, and then Wrecker sits next to her and it just doesn't go down on him. I thought that was very funny.
Yeah.
But no, I think you're onto something, because even right before this, Tech is talking about this scanner he's working on to like see what's up with the chips. That's what he's doing as they're crash landing. And
yeah,
I think we've seen so far that this show, unlike Clone Wars, is going to be linear, so much like similar to Rebels, but I'd probably say even closer to something like Mandalorian than Rebels. But I think that being introduced, that Tech is working on that, and then Wrecker saying that his head is hurting after he knocks it, I think it's like, it's not a coincidence, And I took it as like just the shock of the hit might have just like kickstarted it or something.
That's how I interpreted it too.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that like there was so much emphasis put on the fact that like Wrecker had like hit his head, and I had read some stuff and seen some stuff where some people pointed out that he was like rubbing his head in the spot where an inhibitor chip would be in all the clones. So that seems like too good to be true in a way. Like it's too much of a coincidence. And also, like the past 2 episodes, this dude's like literally been shot like 3 times, right? And he's like just walked it off. But he's like, I don't know. It just seems sort of out of place where he's just at it all of a sudden like, oh, my head like really hurts. Yeah. Whereas he's been like shot 4 times.
So I don't know what I hope happens out of this, because I think it's going to involve the chip for sure. But like I see it going 2 ways, where either this show just becomes very sad, and by the end of it, like all of the Bad Batch are converted to drones of the Empire or die, which I'd be crushed, because I would like this to go multiple seasons. I think they're an awesome team and it's a great concept. Or probably something you wouldn't like, going along with this, we've seen this before, where maybe an episode is since Omega is used to Kamino, she knows about the chips. Like, she has to use Tech's thing to like take his chip out or neutralize it the way it happened to Rex in season 7.
That is interesting. I mean, that's possible. I'm more leaning towards the first sort of thought that you had, Christian. When I thought about like what was up with Wrecker and what happened with his head, I think it's pretty safe to assume that it's probably something to do with his inhibitor chip, given what Tech said, which made me think about if Crosshair and his inhibitor chip never really worked correctly, right? And Wrecker's starting to have some issues with his own. What happens when more of the Bad Batch start to have this issue? I'm thinking that maybe that this series is going to end with all of them having to like sacrifice themselves in some way. I don't know. Just because like we'll get to it later on, but it seems like the Kaminoans also have like bigger plans for the Bad Batch, and yeah, I don't know. I just don't see it ending well for them personally.
Yeah, which is sad. I see a world where they all die and then Hunter is the last one standing and he just runs off to like raise Omega, and then maybe we pick up with the two of them 15 years down the line or something. I hope truly that will hurt me more than Rogue One. I hear people always like, oh, Rogue One's so sad, it made me cry. I don't care about those characters. I care about the Bad Batch, Mike. If bad things happen to all of them, Crosshair, I don't really feel much. But if the rest of them, and you're starting with Wrecker, that's going to crush me.
That's the thing. Like, Wrecker is definitely the one who has most of the comic relief and all that kind of stuff. So, starting with Wrecker, I feel like the showrunners are putting an idea into our heads as viewers that really none of them are safe, right? Yeah. Even the most innocent of them will turn into a killer.
So that's why I wonder, because in this episode, or I think maybe last week's episode, they talked about how the Kaminoans have a reason for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not knowing what Omega's thing is, I really wonder, because I still don't buy the fact that people say she's force sensitive.
I don't either. Yeah.
Because, like, again, nothing to go on this week either. I think, honestly, her thing is that she has all the aspects from the Bad Batch, and that's it. That's her thing. She has all of them.
Yeah.
Like, she's the ultimate one. And I wonder if because of that, they'll be able to use Tech's device to cleanse all of them. And that's, like, the benefit of her sticking around for them in episode 2. Like, I really wonder if that's the direction we go down. Because I would hate to just kill the momentum of this series in one season, honestly.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is necessarily going to just take place this season. Like, I kind of hope not. I guess, like, I've always thought in my own head that the Bad Batch was going to be at least 2 seasons, more than 1 season. I don't know. I had nothing to base that off of. It's just like the vibe that I received from it. Mm-hmm. But I mean, 16 episodes, there's a lot that can happen in the next, 13. So I guess we're going to have to see where that goes. I think where you're going to with Omega is interesting, because we do get some more information about where the Empire is going in terms of their use of clones. We are introduced to Vice Admiral Rampart, I think, who I think is a new character. He's in charge of Operation Warmantle, which I did notice from watching, I think, like a new Rockstars thing about this. That was actually mentioned in 2016's Rogue One as some of the operations that Jyn and Cassian were going through on Scarif. Like, one of them was Warmantle, very interesting. So he is, trying to push the Empire away from these clones, and so he comes up with, this elite squadron of recruits. And as this is happening, the Kaminoans are sort of freaking out, saying that they can't let the Empire move away from clones, because how are they going to survive as, that's their main way of survival. So they talk about going to the next phase, which is what they say a superior clone, and that they only need 1 clone, because they say something about like they need a clone, and that clone's not going to come back, but they only need 1 of them. Yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off. Were you gonna
No.
say what I think you're gonna say?
I'm sort of rambling, but I mean, I was gonna say, you know, piggybacking off of what you were saying, Christian, I think that maybe the Kaminoans want Omega
Yes.
to make like a superior clone, an army basically of the Bad Batch,
Yes.
with each clone having each of their powers and abilities.
I'm 100% with you. I think that's exactly what it is. And you know why?
Yeah.
Because they said we only need one. You have Crosshair.
Yeah.
So clearly they're not talking
Right.
about the Bad Batch.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Because they yeah, and also what would the purpose be of just getting one of the Bad Batch who has, each of them only have one
exactly.
sort of like special ability, but like you were saying, it seems like Omega either has all of the abilities innate within her, or B is just like really good at picking up all of these abilities, and maybe that's her power, right? I don't know. But yeah, like you said, they already have Crosshair, so they definitely are looking for the other four. So Omega is really the odd one out.
Yeah. And I mean, I didn't think about this until you just finished saying that, but again, kind of mirroring Grogu being needed for his blood. So I don't know if that rubs you the wrong way, but no, I think that's probably what's the case, right? Because I truly think introducing a Force-sensitive clone in this era, Filoni wouldn't do that, because it would open up too many inconsistencies, and it would lessen the impact of what Grogu's need. Like, I truly think it would just result in more questions than anything. And clearly Omega's important, and in this episode she's like following a hunter, and she's like, hey, can I learn, maybe I can learn how to track too, and he kind of shoots her down, and like she's mimicking him, but like she still is able to pull through in the end, and deal with that beast, right? So like, I honestly think that's Omega's thing. I think she's the base, because they also mentioned how Jango's DNA is kind of deteriorating. So like, maybe she was modified to the extent she was, so that it can like be replicated as a new thing. And isn't Omega like 0? Isn't that what it is, or 1 or something like that?
Omega is the last character in the Greek alphabet.
Okay, but isn't there like a thing tied to Omega, or am I thinking of something else? Like the symbol?
I mean, I think it's like I don't know, but I know like Omega is basically like the last. Like that's like what I get from it, I guess. So. Okay.
But yeah, I think there's too many things that, like, after introducing this idea of a superior clone, the next phase, and Omega is different, I think that's where we're going, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's probably accurate. I feel like the only question that sort of brings up is just like, how do we get from here, right? That's where we're going. How do we get from there to like episode 4 with the Empire having recruits, right? So something has to have happened between like the Kaminoans coming up with like the superior phase 3 clone, right? Mm-hmm. Being like, hey, Grand Moff Tarkin, like, forget recruits, like this is going to be your next army. What happens between then and like, the recruits that we know of the Stormtroopers in episode 4? I think that, at some point, maybe the Bad Batch and Omega all have to, like, I think this is kind of coming full circle back to what we were talking about earlier. I'm not sure exactly about how this may go down, but, because Omega and the Kaminoans are trying to use Omega to build this, like, superior clone army for the Empire, Omega and the Bad Batch have to, like, sacrifice themselves in some way to stop that from happening. That's like what I'm thinking. Maybe could be how this plays out. I mean, I feel like that would solidify, their presence in the canon and sort of answer questions as to why the Empire has like a really crappy fighting force, and why the Bad Batch never showed up past basically like this period of time.
Now, Mike, we know Palpatine is a master planner. He's pulling the strings constantly. I have a theory. Yep. I told you I have a theory about this.
Yeah.
Maybe Tarkin and Rampart, they see what's going on here. They're like, we don't want it. No. And then that's okay. We get normies. That's why the Stormtroopers suck. But we know Palpatine he's a master. He's accounting for everything, Mike. Always.
Oh, yeah. Always.
What if uh, Emperor Palpatine goes to the Kaminoans on his own and is like, hey, I will fund this. Keep it hush-hush. And what if this new and improved clone is the Sith troopers from the sequel trilogy? Because where did they come from? They're just staying there on Exegol forever, right? Like, what if that's what it is?
I mean, yeah, it could be. It's interesting though because we just like don't have any information about the Sith troopers.
I know. So here we go. That's an open door. You know what?
Yeah.
I was wrong about Phasma. There was an explanation. There's probably an explanation here, but maybe at the minimum, maybe they're just the Royal Guard or something like that. But I don't know.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's possible. I don't know. I just think that there's a lot of questions here in terms of like I just want to know like what happened that the Empire like got such a crappy fighting force, you know?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It seems like they really made all the wrong decisions. But maybe it was out of their hands. Maybe it wasn't really something that they can control. I guess we're gonna have to find out by watching The Bad Batch because I think that this series is going to answer that question.
I agree.
Very interesting though. One thing I did want to mention, I think this episode had one of the darkest moments in Star Wars,
Yeah.
where we get Crosshair and the elite squadron of recruited troopers heading back to Saw Gerrera's camp, where Grand Moff Tarkin sort of commands them to wipe out Saw Gerrera's camp. Basically, Crosshair and the clones get there. Crosshair sort of tells the Crosshair tells the recruits to execute all of like the children and like the women of the camp, and they refuse to do so. Crosshair is like, good soldiers follow orders, murks one of his own, and they kill all the people in the camp, which is really, really messed up. But I think it shows, you know, the level at which Crosshair is just like not like he doesn't like he has no control over his actions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's metaphoric to like the grip that like the empire has over the galaxy at this point. Like there's really nothing anybody can do.
So I wonder, because we also know that Crosshair went through a procedure, and we don't really talk about that this episode, right? Like, was that just again like a patch update like we did before? Just another boost to the chip, or was that something new? I don't know, but
I don't know.
I'm with you. That was a very dark scene, and I was surprised at how far they went with it. But it also makes me wonder, because we've seen characters like Crosshair and other Disney stuff, like somebody under mind control doing evil things. Like, is
The Winter Soldier.
Sure, yeah. Is Crosshair going to be redeemed at some point? Is he going to sacrifice himself when he snaps out of it? I don't know, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think as a viewer, you're supposed to dislike Crosshair, but also like feel bad for him, right? Because it's not really his fault. I don't know. I think at some point he's going to be redeemed. Personally, that's just the way Star Wars goes.
Yeah.
But is he going to live? Like, I think going back to our previous conversation, I don't think any of them are going to live.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's just an interesting thing to chew on here, Christian.
I agree, and I'm looking forward to the next episode because I want to see how much deeper we get, because it does seem like we're going on a straightforward A to B to C story with the chips and the direction of the crew. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's next.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with each episode, we're starting to get a little bit more deeper into, you know, what's the motivations of these characters and the overall themes of the show, and the central conflict is starting to become pretty. You know, we're starting to understand the central conflict as viewers. So I think this is only going to get better as we continue to watch. One thing that I wanted to mention, I thought the ending was really sweet. When Wrecker made Omega her own room on their spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a good little ending for the episode.
I agree. I liked that. It was a nice little end point. So
yeah,
gonna be real sad
They're
when
all
Wrecker turns coat.
True. Yeah.
Right.
Wrecker's my favorite. I think we talked about that. But
Yeah, he's great. He's awesome.
Well, that was episode 3, replacements. Anything else you want to add about that episode, Christian?
It's a good one. I think separating myself from the premiere, this is probably the one I'll judge future episodes on until we get a major new one that's goes beyond this, because I did really like the slow burn here. I did like being trapped on the planet and just talking through things. Like, talking and like going through stuff in Star Wars is like one of my favorite things about it. So the more deliberate slow pace of this episode I enjoyed personally. I could see why someone wouldn't, but I liked it a lot.
Totally. I'm excited to see more about the Bad Batch. We got 13 more weeks to go, and I'm excited for each and every one of them.
Agree.
Well, Christian, why don't you take us out to sea, man?
Sounds
I think
good.
we're done.
Mike, where can the listeners find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Mike P. Connors.
Very nice. You can follow me on Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at ChunTD2, as well as here, youtube.com/joyclicks for this show, Jedi Knights, under the playlist. Like Mike mentioned earlier, we also have Excelsior, Marvel's Avengers podcast, available on the channel alongside Gamescast and the Long Play Club. If you like Metal Gear Solid, check that out. This show is available, though, like I said, on youtube.com/joyclicks for the video version, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, your service of choice for the audio version if you would like that. If you can rate or review on that platform, it would be appreciated because it helps the show out a ton. And if you want to get involved further, patreon.com/joyclicks at the $1 and $5 tiers. $5 tier gets you producer credit on this show and every show, like Chris Sakas and Aaron Easton. So thank you very much. And that is going to do it. So we will be back next week going over what's up with the Bad Batch, episode 4, and hopefully some more exciting Star Wars news. So
I'm sure.
Absolutely. Get ready for trailers. We're getting a trailer next week. Count on it.
Count on it, yeah.
But until then, we're fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
May the Force be with you.
Oh, yes, you're right. Beep is up.